What is up, everyone? Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I'm sure many of you guys have seen on social media and just kind of looking at what happened in the past couple of years. It's not surprising. And that is the fact that a lot of banks right now are on the brink of an insolvent collapse. So what we know right now is this, that the US banking sector, it's facing about 517 billion in unrealized losses. So a lot of these losses, they actually come from banks that make bad loans, that have outstanding debts that they can't service or pay back. And so there's 63 lenders right now on the risk of insolvency. Now, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if these banks go under? And the thing is, there may not be enough capital to bail them all out if this does happen. And some things we got to talk about is this. When a bank is on the bad list, the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, they're not going to go telling you which bank it is, because then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone sees that the bank is on the list, and then they do everything they can to withdraw their money from the bank, causing it to go under. So if this list were to ever get leaked, it would be really, really bad for the whole economy. But essentially, what we're seeing is these banks, they made bad loans, they made bad business decisions. Now capital is tight. Things in the economy have really slowed down. A lot of the numbers are fudged. And what we do know is that these banks, they don't have enough capital. They don't have enough capital to service their debts. Now, end of year 2024, 2025, and 2026, we need to be prepared, guys. We need to be in a strong financial position, whether that's having Bitcoin, gold, silver, assets. We have things paid off. We don't have too much debt, because we may be facing a lot of inclement weather that could come into the system if we see a lot of these banks collapse. Now, some of the things to think about with these banks on the brink of collapse is, well, what should you do? Well, one of the things is this. You definitely shouldn't have more than 250K in a bank, but you should also look at getting some of your money outside of the system. Now, what are ways to do that? Traditionally, throughout time, people would put cash under their mattress. Well, they realized that's not a good idea, because what if their house burns down? Then people decided, you know what? Let's go put copper, let's put silver, let's put gold, let's store that in our location. Well, that worked good. There was also a lot of robbers, and it's very big. There's a lot of it, and it's not easy to move around. And while maybe it could withstand a fire to an extent, people realized maybe that this isn't the best way. Now we have a tool called Bitcoin, where you can store that and you can move it throughout time and space pretty easily, and you don't need to actually hold a liability or a claim on the money. Rather, you hold the bearer asset yourself. So the reserve requirement currently is 0%. And this is an atrocity, guys. This is so bad that the reserve requirement is still 0%. This was initiated back in March of 2020, and the fact that it's still here, it's sad, because banks don't need to keep reserves on their balance sheet. And well, why is this? Why do banks not need to keep reserves on their balance sheet? Well, that's because they want to go lend out more money. They want to stay competitive, so they keep lending out money, getting more returns. By having a 0% reserve requirement, they can lend out money in pretty much as they want. So, it's really sad to see the fact that this reserve requirement wasn't brought back up to 10% or 20%. It is even 20% is bad. We need to see banks that are 80% reserved or full reserved banks. But in this day and age, we see, due to regulation, due to lobbying, due to all this stuff, the reserve requirement being so low. And that's not good, because if everyone went to the bank to try to withdraw their money, there wouldn't be enough there for everyone. So the thing is this, there were too many loans over the past several years that were made bad. And in the end, the commercial real estate area, it is going to be hit hard. It already is being hit hard. We're seeing prices down 60, 70, 80% in some areas. But the loans, the ones that have been made bad, it's really going to cause havoc in the markets. Because I'm not shedding a tear for commercial bankers right now, guys, but what I do worry about is the banks that made the loans for these commercial banks, the banks that made these loans on these bad properties. There's retail investors in those banks, and the retail investors are mom and pop, grandma. They're not, sophisticated investors. They're just normal people like you and I. So even in residential, we're seeing issues, right? A lot of banks were lending 2 to 3% on residential mortgages, and now the cost of capital is like 7-8%, right? So there's a delta right there. Cost of capital in reality right now is 7-8%. Mortgages are 2 to 3%. Well, who's taking the hit? The bank is taking the hit. Can the bank keep taking the hits from the commercial side and the residential side, for this long? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe they can if they keep getting pumped with more liquidity by the Fed. But the consumers with the residential side, they got to steal. They really got to take advantage of these. And technically, a lot of those people that got those low mortgages, they're sitting on a ton of equity right now, really. But they can't cash out that equity because guess what? Where are they going to go? Anything that they want to buy is going to be 30, 40% more expensive, 50% more expensive because the cost of capital increased so much. So we're in this rate lock environment right now, and banks aren't lending. People are kind of really starting to not spend money. And we're also seeing a lot of banks that are on the brink of insolvency that the Fed or nobody's telling us what they are. So what are we supposed to do here? And from my view, gold, silver, most importantly, Bitcoin, any asset that's outside of the system is important. But also being sure that you are prepared to keep an eye on opportunities as they come up. So the thing is this. Bidenomics, the current administration, they don't have anything under control at this point in time. It's clear as day. Every day you kind of look and see what's happening. And it's not just the US, it's Western nations, Canada, Britain, Italy, Spain, all these countries are facing a lot of issues right now in their economies. And I think it's hard to see because there's a lot of hardworking Americans. These boom and bust cycles are exacerbated by what the Federal Reserve does and what these banks do. And at the end of the day, normal people that work hard every day, go to work, get up, and try to put their best foot forward, they're the ones that end up getting hurt. The people that get ahead, they're just closest to the money printer. They're the quintillionaires. So, to be honest, Trump, I'll say this too, he was technically printing a lot of money. He wasn't cutting spending. It's bigger than just Biden or Trump, left or right, blue or red. It is big. It is the whole system, the whole way we designed this credit-based system is what is at fault right now, not any political party. Now, I have my preferences on political candidates, but that's not to say that one is better than the other from the aspect of helping the deficits. Both have contributed significantly to the deficits. Now, the thing is this, we got to make change. We got to see a change in the system. And I don't know if you guys saw this in the past year or so, Custodia Bank by Caitlin Long. She is the president CEO. She tried to get a charter with the Federal Reserve to become a bank in Wyoming. They said no. They said no to her, that she could not get a charter as a full reserve bank. Think about how insane that is. We see so many banks right now being completely irresponsible with the 0% reserve requirement. Completely irresponsible. Yet we see situations like this where Caitlin Long and Custodia Bank, they get denied their charter. How fair is that a bank that is willing to hold 100%, maybe even more, over-reserved, 110% of the customer's deposits? How is it that they can't get a charter, but you see First Republic or Republic First or Silicon Valley Bank get charters? It's a ridiculous Ponzi scheme. There's a lot of people that are politically connected that just kind of get through in evil ways in this world. And it's important to recognize at the end of the day, good things are hard money. Good things are having the bearer asset. Good things are people that are willing to try to protect others, like what Caitlin Long has been doing. So the thing is this. The FDIC, we all know this, the FDIC, they can't cover all of the deposits if all these banks go under. So I get why they're keeping their mouth shut. But at the end of the day, we need to protect ourselves. We need to prepare ourselves to make it so we're not falling victim to this. Even if you do get your deposits insured, guess what? You'll get, let's just say you have $50K cash in the bank and the bank goes under. So they'll announce the bank going under that Friday. By Monday, you'll have your deposits in the new bank. And the craziest thing is this. Yeah, you got your money back, but we all know this. There's more inflation now. So you can get your deposit back up to $250K, but the environment's different. The inflation, your 50K is now worth maybe 48K. It shows 50K on the balance, but the purchasing power is 48K. So it's not worth keeping large sums in the bank because of all these funny reasons that people, bankers, and bureaucrats do to manipulate us. Now, the thing is this, why should we choose Bitcoin? Now, I'm just talking about it why I choose it, but why I choose Bitcoin personally is it really is something that can't be manipulated by the bankers. Yes, there's whales that dump. Yes, there are exchanges that go under. Yes, it is still pretty volatile. But I go for Bitcoin because I know for a fact that if I hold it over a 4-year period, as is proven, it will go up. Now, yes, it'll go down 80% in that window somewhere. 70%, 90%. You got to have, it's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you. It is not for the faint of heart. But Bitcoin, at least you hold the bearer instrument. With all this other stuff, you're holding a liability. You're holding a claim. You're holding a note that is being debased. So we need a better system in this world. And I think Bitcoin is that better system. And that's why right now we're seeing the price run up to 71,000. I think others are starting to realize that as well. But we need a better system, not just because the price is going up, but we need a better system because everything's on the line. If we don't have this better system, like Bitcoin, I think a lot of people are going to be living in financial repression where they work hard, their savings get devalued, and they don't have a good retirement. They don't have a good future. So we really need to work towards building this better system, which I believe is Bitcoin. And what we need to do is fight against what banks are doing, because banks are trying to devalue your life energy and money and your savings. They are lending out money 10 times of what you put in. If you put 10 grand in the bank, they're lending out 100 grand. And poof, that money is created out of thin air. That's why we're seeing these banks start to go under right now, is because they can't do that. This is kind of a financial wizardry that they've conducted to kind of prop things up for themselves. But they're not issuing loans now because guess what? Who can afford 8% interest rates? If you're just subprime or, much under prime, you're probably paying 10, 11, 12% plus interest rates. It is not a good environment for borrowing. It is not a good environment for banks. And we need to prepare ourselves. Anyways, guys, that was all I had today. Please be sure to stream those sats, subscribe, like, send this around. You guys are awesome. And just remember, study Bitcoin. Don't just buy it right away. Study it, learn about it, and really work to understand the asset, because at the end of the day, I want all you guys to be prepared to set yourself up for the best future possible. And maybe Bitcoin will play a role in that. Have a good one, all.